It is brisket making day today. What we're going to do is we're going to make one brisket that is a choice grade brisket, another brisket that's a prime grade brisket. Going to cook them both the exact same, prepare them both the exact same, and find out if they taste differently when they're done, and just see how they compare and see what the difference between the two is. Obviously, the prime grade is going to have more marbling and more fat content in the meat, or at least it's supposed to, as long as it was graded correctly, I suppose. Opposed to the choice grade, it's supposed to be a little bit more lean and have less marbling in it. So we're going to find out if we can tell the difference between the two in a taste test and see how they turn out, and see if there really is that big of a difference in quality, and if it truly is worth paying the extra amount of money for prime. So here's our two briskets. Here's the bottom side of the brisket. The fat cap is on the other side. Fat cap really isn't what's going to determine whether something is prime grade or choice grade. It's the marbling in the actual meat that's going to do that. So this one right here is the prime grade, and you can see just in the fibers and mixed throughout the meat, there's just more fat content in the actual meat than what's in the choice grade. The choice grade just doesn't have quite as much marbling. You can't see all the white spots like you can in the prime grade side. That's really the difference between the two different meats. Fat cap doesn't really determine it. They actually don't even look at the brisket when they determine whether a cow is choice grade or not. They look up where the ribeye section is, and they look at, all they do is look at one section of that cow to determine whether it's a prime grade cow or a choice grade. They don't have time, of course, to look over the entire cow and inspect every single piece of meat. So they're just going to kind of inspect one area. If they determine that area is prime, ideally the rest of the cow should also be prime as well. Again, even at that point, it's purely just opinion on what that grading person thinks. I'm not really going to show too much of my process for trimming, just going to do a normal trimming on this one. I have another video where I've trimmed brisket. We're going to go ahead and start trimming on the bottom here. Get the bottom of this clean up as much of this fat as we can. Cut off the sides where they cauterized it to break it off of the breastbone in the middle, and then flip it over. We'll get the fat cap trimmed up and do it the way that I want to do it. And then we'll go through and season it. Going to season them both the same. Going to trim them both the same. Cook them both on the same cooker at the same time and see what we think. Briskets are all trimmed. I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys how I season them real quick. My go-to yellow mustard as the binder. Just get a little bit of that on there. I'm not going to taste this at all in the meat or in the finished product. Totally going to be just what's going to make the rub stick. For the rub, just going with my standard and typical salt and pepper, just half and half coarse ground black pepper, half kosher salt, mix them together. With brisket, I feel like it's really easy to over season it. It's important that you want to get some seasoning on it, but you don't want to get too much on it. Still want the flavor of the actual beef to stand out. Brisket has such great natural flavor. Don't want to take away from any of that, that's for sure. So for me, I just kind of go like a medium light amount, kind of like that. Go ahead and be sure we get the front ends, and then just go through. Just get that seasoning on, get the rub on it. It doesn't have to be super thick, super heavy. I think it's a mistake sometimes when people just over season them. That's just me. I don't like to have it over seasoned. I don't like to take a bite of my brisket and just taste salt and pepper or whatever other rub you're going to use. I also don't get too fancy with my rubs, purely, especially with brisket. Again, want the meat to stand out, but also how the brisket's going to taste, how it's going to turn out. It's going to be impacted far more by the fact that it's in smoke for 12 hours, however long it's going to take. Now, that quality of smoke that's going to hit the meat is really what's going to make an impact on the flavor of the meat, not whether or not I put a dash of garlic or a dash of onion powder in my rub. None of that really actually matters. All of it's going to be nullified by the smoke that this thing's going to be in and how long it's going to be in there for. That's really what's going to make the difference. And then the quality of smoke, the quality of fire, that's the biggest thing to pay attention to and focus on with the brisket, more so than all those individual seasonings you put inside of your rub. For me, I just want to have a rub that's going to make texture and help to create a really good bark. That's it. So now I kind of have like some splotches of fat on here. especially that aren't fatty. This is the way that I like to just personally trim them. I'm not a huge fat person. Try to leave it so some spots have some fat, some spots don't, but also try to make it so it's just smooth all the way across. That way we don't get any puddling on the briskets so that it doesn't ruin the bark. Just go through. Doesn't have to be super heavy. Just needs to be on there. Get the sides covered. Sometimes I'll do the front side a little bit heavier just to help give a little bit of extra protection from the fire. This, I will be putting the point side towards the firebox. That's pretty much it. Not much more to it than this. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is just finish up this other one, and then I will get them on the smoker. When I cook them, I'm going to start them out at 255. Leave them in there 255 for about 3 hours or so, and then I'll kind of ramp up the temperature slowly a little bit. From there, get it up to, when we finish these things, probably be in the 275 range. Cook these my normal way that I would cook any other brisket. So out here just to check on these briskets real quick. So this closer one right here, this is the choice brisket. That one back there, that's the prime grade one. Both looking pretty good. Both having the nice bark setting up. Not a whole lot of puddling on them. A little bit right there on this one. A little bit right here on this one. The choice one, the prime one's looking really good. I'm gonna spritz them real quick. It's been about 3 hours. Actually, it's been exactly 3 hours since they were put on. So, liking the way these are looking. Come along really nicely. Just wanted to show you guys kind of how they're looking at this point after 3 hours. Can't really tell a difference between the two, which is good. I was kind of worried that the choice one might dry out a little bit faster just because it has less fat, less marbling, but it's not. Okay, so what we got now is just our sample pieces of the brisket. I just went ahead and sliced them. I know I didn't record it. Normally I do. Normally I show everything how I do stuff, but the purpose of this video wasn't to do that. It was just to do a comparison between choice and prime grade brisket. I did make a short that showed me slicing it, so if you want to watch the short you can. I've also made other brisket videos where I've gone through step by step and shown every single thing that I do from start to finish with the brisket. You can watch them there also. So we're going to go ahead and just try these. You know, these briskets, they were both cooked the exact same. They were seasoned the exact same, trimmed the same, cooked for the same amount of time, pulled them at the same temperature. I will say the choice one, even though it was done and it felt done, it didn't feel quite as soft as the prime brisket did, and there wasn't as much juice that came out of the wrapping with the choice as compared to the prime. So the prime definitely had more juice in it, had more juice that came out of it after I unwrapped it and sliced them. So definitely was a noticeable difference there. Now we're just going to go ahead and do our taste test. Oh, and both briskets were both about 12 pounds as well. So both pretty comparable. I got my wife who's running the camera. She's going to help me taste test. She doesn't know which one is choice, which one is prime. I do. She likes the point meat, so we're going to let her try those, and I'll just try the flat. Since that's what I prefer. Which one do you want first? This one? There you go. So there's your point.
I'm eating them both at the same time.
Well, it's just how the point meat is. It's the top and the bottom with the seam in the middle. But it's all one piece. It's all from the same brisket. How is it?
It's delicious.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Is it good? Is it how it normally is? It soft and good like it normally is?
Tastes like pot roast.
All right. Hopefully it tastes like brisket also. So there's the other one, other point. Think about that one.
Is this the choice?
No. It's actually the prime.
The other one is more tender, but they both taste really good.
Okay. It's interesting because the choice, this side here is the choice. This is the prime. You can see a color difference. The choice oxidized a lot faster for some reason, which was interesting. The choice tastes good. It's definitely not dry. For the prime flat, you can definitely has more juice in it, which for flat's important, I guess, because there's not a whole lot of fat in it. So just for it to have it in the actual meat is good, which is what the prime had. The choice was still good, but it definitely kind of shrunk up and definitely just oxidized. You can see there's the other side, the bottom side, which isn't oxidized, whereas the prime just never oxidized at all, which is awesome. In the end, my wife likes the choice point more. I like the prime flat more. However, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's worth the additional expense for a prime. Maybe it could be if you really like it. Go ahead and try them out and see what you guys think. I think that maybe if you can pick a choice that looks really good, that looks really close to a prime grade, which is what I picked out for this choice, I think you can save yourself some money and get a really good brisket still and not have to pay the price for prime, as long as you're getting one that looks good and has good marbling in it. Otherwise, if you can't find one in the choice that just looks like it's, close to a prime, just get the prime. For these ones, it was like 20 cents more a pound for the prime, so not a huge difference. Go ahead and leave comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. Happy to, as always, I'll answer your questions and respond as quickly as I can.